Okay, we're getting better. The next thing I want to do is I want to add a close button, which we've done that a couple times, so this will just take a moment. I'm going to close that, add a new button up top. I want this to go right to the top of my window, and I'm going to reskin this, create an empty template. Now, I want to put this directly into my Team A resource dictionary, but I can't right now because Team A is not currently linked. When I specify that I want to create a resource, it's only going to show me the resource dictionaries that are currently linked, so I can't put it in Team A right now. That's okay, I'll put it in Team B and worry about moving it over later. I'm going to call this my close button, so this is my close template. Okay, now where did my application go? There's a key point to remember here. When you're modifying a resource directly in a resource dictionary, the resource dictionary itself doesn't have a concept of the application that it's connected to. So as soon as I started editing this control and told it to put it directly into the resource dictionary, my application goes away and I've got a localized view of the component I need to work with. Let's go ahead and create my close template. I'm going to go ahead and drop a grid in, make the grid activated. I'm going to put a rectangle in there. I'm going to stretch it out so it fills up the entire grid. And I'm just going to turn it red. So now I've got my rectangle. Okay, it's a fairly simple control. I can go ahead and add more graphics to it later, but I wanted to have this idea set up so I knew what color it was going to be. Let me step out of the template. So now let's add that close handler. All I need to do, switch to the event page. On the click, we're going to close my gadget. There we go. I can run my application by pressing F5, and now I can click on the little tab and it'll close the application. Now we have one problem here. I created this template in skin B. When I run my application, I can switch between the two skins, and the button looks the same. That's because the button's resource is defined, and as long as it's not overridden, it'll stay the same. The button looks the same in both skins, but since the button is a template and the template is a resource, I'm actually not restricted to using the same button template in both styles. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to close this, switch to my Resources tab, and the closed template shows up here in Team B. I'm going to copy that, go back to Team A, and paste it here. Now I have a different template visible on this side, so let's disconnect ourselves from Team B by right-clicking on app.xaml, linking to Team A, and then unlinking from Team B, and let's edit that resource. I'm going to grab my selection tool, right-click the button, and edit the template. I've got my red here, but just for fun, I'm going to change that rectangle a bit. So let me select it. I'm going to go to Object and convert it to a path. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just change the geometry a little bit, just something so you can see that the value's actually changed. Now, let me step out of my template, and let's run the application. So now, the template defined in my Team A for the button shows a kind of quirky rectangle, but when I switch over to the Team B, it takes the template from the Team B resource dictionary, which is the perfect rectangle. Anything that you can specify into the resources, you can modify here. Let me take one more step. Let's actually change the background of the gadget. So I'm going to select the outer frame. I'm going to go to my properties. I'm going to switch back to the properties view. And I'm going to change the fill to a linear gradient. I'm going to apply a transform so I get a better appearance. And I'm going to set my colors. I want this one to go to my primary color, and I want this one to go to my secondary color. Now, I'm actually going to take the brush itself and convert it to a resource. And I'm just going to call this background brush, because if I call it background, that may be a collision. And I'm going to put it right into my resource dictionary. Now, I'm going to run here, and you're going to see that this actually isn't going to work. This is unfortunately due to a bug in Blend, and I want to explain to you how to work around it. The linear gradient brush is not allowed to use the color resources inside of it in a switching resource dictionary like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my brush, I'm going to break the connection to move it back to a linear brush, and on each gradient stop you'll see that the resources have been already removed. So I'm not looking at primary color and secondary color here, I'm looking at a black to orange gradient. So now when I press F5, everything will work correctly. However, that black and orange, I don't have a corresponding brush in my second template, so the background isn't going to change. In fact, at the moment, that black to orange isn't even a resource, so even if I defined it on the other side, it wouldn't work correctly anyway. So let me close this, and I'm going to turn this brush back into a resource. But you'll notice this time, my linear gradient isn't using any resources for the individual gradient stops. I'm going to convert this to a new resource, and I'm going to call this the fixed background brush. And once again, I'm going to put it in team A.xaml. There we go. Now that background brush, that first one, might cause us problems later on, so I'm going to go to my Resources tab and get rid of it. I can do that easily enough just by right-clicking and deleting. So now I've got my fixed background brush. I'm going to copy it and create a new instance of it in team B.xaml. And now I want to modify this. I'm going to click on the chevron here and set the color. Now, I can switch to my color resources, but when I look at the color resources, it's showing me the resources from the application, not from this resource dictionary, so I can't get to the primary and secondary color that I want. So I'm just going to switch to my editor and use the eyedropper to get the colors I need. So for this gradient, I want the white, so I'm going to click the eyedropper and just grab the white right out of my resource dictionary. Click the other stop, click, and grab the maroon. Now, my brush is set. Let's press F5. And when I switch the skins, everything changes. The gradient in the background, as well as my beanie, are both changing color as they're supposed to. And my close button at the top changes its shape as I switch from one skin to the other.